Idealism can be defined as a philosophical theory which holds that reality is fundamentally mental, spiritual, or immaterial. In other words, idealism asserts that ideas, consciousness, and the mind are the true essence of reality, while the material world is secondary or dependent on the mind. Idealists believe that what we perceive through our senses is not the ultimate reality, but rather an imperfect reflection of higher unchanging truth. The founding father of idealism is widely recognized as Plato, which is the renowned Greek philosopher. Plato introduced the concept of a higher realm of forms or ideas, which he believed were perfect, eternal, and unchanging. According to Plato, everything we see in the material world is merely an imperfect copy of these perfect forms. His philosophy emphasized that true knowledge comes not from sensory experience, but from intellectual insight into this higher reality. Next, I will continue with the main points of idealism theory. First, idealism is based on a positive view of human nature and morality. Idealists believe that human beings are fundamentally good and capable of moral behavior. This belief extends to states as well, suggesting that nations are not destined for conflict but can act ethically and cooperatively. Therefore, international relations do not have to be dominated by competition and war. Instead, states can work together to achieve peace and mutual benefit through shared ethical principles. Second, idealism places strong emphasis on the importance of international law. Idealists argue that binding legal agreements, treaties, and conventions are vital tools for maintaining global order and resolving disputes peacefully. By establishing clear rules of conduct, international law provides mechanisms to prevent conflicts and encourage cooperation. Institutions like the International Court of Justice play a key role in ensuring that nations respect international norms, uphold sovereignty, and protect human rights. Thirdly, idealism highlights the significance of international institutions in promoting peace and collaboration. Organizations such as the United Nations are seen as essential platforms for dialogue, dispute resolution, and collective action. These institutions not only facilitate cooperation but also promote universal values like human rights, environmental protection, and social justice. Idealists believe that such bodies help reduce rivalry among states and create a more unified and peacefully international community.
Next, let's move to the analysis of theory idealism. So idealism offers a hopeful view of international relations. It argues that war happens not naturally but due to failure in diplomacy, ethics, and international institutions. So this theory became influential after World War I, especially through President Woodrow Wilson's 14 points, which promoted peace through one diplomacy and international law. This led to the creation of the League of Nations. So, however, idealism faced challenge. So the League failed to stop the World War II, mainly because it lacked power to enforce decisions, especially against strong states like Nazi Germany. Realists criticize idealism as too naive, ignoring the reality of countries act based on power and self-interest. So still, idealism either continued after World War II. So the United Nations and institutions like the International Criminal Court were formed to promote peace, justice, and accountability, a core value of idealism. Today, idealism shapes areas like human rights, environmental cooperation, and global development. So movement against war, crimes, and for democracy reflect idealist belief. So in conclusion, idealism reminds us that a better world is possible through ethics, law, and global cooperation, even in a world full of struggle.
Thanks, Wahida, for the great explanation. Next, I will present about the positive impact of idealism theory in international relations and the lesson we have learned from its application. First, idealism played a crucial role in institution building after World War I. Idealist thinkers emphasized the need for global cooperation, which led to the formation of the League of Nations and later the United Nations. This constitution, regarded in idealist values like collective security and dialogue, have helped mediate conflict, promote peace, and support humanitarian efforts. However, the League of Nations failed due to a lack of enforcement powers and absence of major powers like the US. This taught us the idealist institution requires strong political backing and effective enforcement and effective. Second, idealism significantly influenced the advocacy for human rights. It inspired international frameworks like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948 and emphasized the moral responsibility to protect vulnerable populations from atrocities such as genocide and ethnic cleansing. But in practice, enforcement remains inconsistent. Major powers often act based on mercenary interests, revealing the moral leadership alone is not enough, but practical tools and international pressure are also necessary. Third, idealism helped shape global norms around justice and accountability, including the creation of the International Criminal Court and the doctrine of the responsibility to protect. Yet again, the challenge lies in turning these ideas into consistent practice. Norms are powerful, but without state commitment and multilateral cooperation, they remain unenforced. In conclusion, idealism has contributed significantly to shaping a more just and cooperative international order. However, its success depends on the balance between moral vision and practical implementation.
Next, I'll be sharing about the negative impact of idealism. While idealism can inspire big dreams, it also has downside we should be aware of. First, idealism can lead to unrealistic expectations. Idealists often aim for a perfect world, but in real life, things rarely go exactly as planned. For example, in politics or reform movements, idealistic goals might sound great, but they often don't work out because they ignore real problems and limitations. So the lesson here is it is okay to dream big, but we must stay realistic or we will end up feeling frustrated and disappointed. Second, idealism can ignore practicality and compromise. Idealists may stick too strongly to their beliefs and reject any idea that doesn't fully match their values. But sometimes, small steps or temporary solutions are needed to move forward. So, we must learn to balance our ideas with practically thinking to create real change. Lastly, idealism can lead to conflict with realism. People who are more realistic may not agree with idealists, which can cause arguments or delays, especially in group works or organizations. So the takeaway is working together with different type of people, both idealists and realistic, can help us find better, more balanced solutions. Thank you.
Now, I would like to share the main advantages of idealism and how it has shaped global cooperation. First, idealism promotes peace and cooperation by encouraging countries to resolve disputes through diplomacy and dialogue rather than war. A major example of this is the formation of the United Nations after World War II, which provide a platform for peaceful conflict resolution and global coordination. Second, it supports a moral and ethical foreign policy. Idealists argue that states should act not only in their own interests but also based on universal values like justice and human dignity. This principle often guides international humanitarian efforts and response to crises like genocide. Lastly, idealism plays a vital role in supporting international institutions. Organizations like International Criminal Court and the World Trade Organization reflect ideals goals of a cooperative, rules-based global system. These bodies help manage international issues more effectively when nations work together. On the other hand, idealism is not without its flaws. However, it's also important to consider the disadvantages of idealism. First, idealism often neglects power and security realities. It assumes that all states will cooperate, but history shows that stronger countries sometimes bypass international law to pursue their own interests, such as military action without United Nations approval. Second, idealism can lead to selective morality and hypocrisy. States may promote human rights in some regions while ignoring violation in others, depending on their strategic interests. This inconsistency weakens the credibility of idealist principles. Lastly, idealism's trust in international cooperation can make states vulnerable to exploitation. Some nations may historically violated treaties they agreed to, such as Germany before World War II. Without mechanism to enforce agreement, idealist strategies can be easily undermined. That is all from me. I will pass to the next presenter to continue with her part.
As of our conclusion, the global order is shifting from US dominance to a more multipolar world with power like China, India, and Russian rising. So although the US still hold major advantage in military, economy, and technology, so its influence is being shared and challenged. But this doesn't mean that American powers is ending. It's actually a transforming. The US remains strong through its economy, innovation, and allies. So to stay relevant, it must adapt by focusing on cooperation, multilateralism, and rebuilding internal strength. So in short, America is no longer the only superpower, but it's still one of the influential. So its future role depends on how well it can innovate and work with others in this new global order.